Hello and welcome to a webinar about LTE-M and Narrowband IoT, which is an urgent matter for global companies. My name is Jelte Jansons and I'm a product manager in the Internet of Things for Telenor Connexion. At Telenor Connexion, we provide global connectivity, and this map that we show right here on the screen is giving you an indication where we are connecting your devices globally. You can see basically that's everywhere. But before we start, just a few practical words. We are very happy that so many people have joined us today at the webinar. And in order to make it a little bit smooth for everybody, we would like to ask you to take your questions in the question form. So for those of you who watch live, we have a question form in this webinar software where you can post questions. And at the end of the presentation, we will go through a few of those questions, and later on we will come back to you if you have any questions about what you see today. Also, this material that we present is a summary of a one-pager that you can download on our website. So, before we start, what is actually LTE-M and Narrowband IoT? Very technical terms. And why is it relevant? Well, LTE-M and Narrowband IoT is a kind of 4.5G technology that can be used to connect devices that are a little bit simpler and need a longer battery life. Devices can go to a power saving mode. Then they can go to sleep, be less active, or go to EDRX and do a kind of snooze, take small naps, so that the battery life of the devices can be much longer. So what can you do with that? Well, you can now put devices in places where you have just one battery charge that should last 5 or 10 years. Such things are now possible. Also, the technology has special built-in technology that automatically will enhance the coverage, so you get much better indoor coverage. Perhaps you remember sometimes with mobile technology in parking garages and other places, it's not always optimal. And that has been well understood. So the LTE-M and Narrowband IoT have improved coverage at such locations by automatically repeating messages. The interesting thing with longer battery life and better coverage is that it's a kind of trade-off. If you, for example, would like to have a very long battery life, then you cannot send too many messages. In order to save your battery life, so you can sleep more. And better coverage means, of course, that if you do a lot of repetitions, then the battery life will decrease a little bit. So the interesting thing is that this technology gives you, as a company, the possibility to tweak what is the best kind of setting there. And that's a whole, let's say, that's not a science, but it's not rocket science either. But we can help you to find these kind of best settings. But why is it relevant? Because this is just technology, right? It's very relevant because we are seeing a shift now in the telecom industry. We have a lot of 5G rollouts. Everybody is talking about 5G. But we who work in the Internet of Things also know that the 2G and the 3G that is still being used a lot for machine to machine, it's slowly fading away. It's getting end of life. So companies like yours that are thinking about global deployments think, what should I choose in order to be ready for 5G? And these technologies, LTE-M and Narrowband IoT, are technologies that will bring you through the 5G era and are available today. So, you know, we at Telenor Connexion have been working with machine to machine a very long time. Of course, the first times that we were getting active in the 2G area with telemetry in the 1990s, the internet of the mobile networks were made for voice and SMS, right? And we use that in a handy way. So we also use that for the machine to machine. So we used actually technology that was not made for the Internet of Things, but we used technology that we could also use. And the Internet of Humans, I call that, has been evolved all of the time, and that's what people are talking about now with 5G. But what's the cool thing about LTE-M and Narrowband that is really made for the Internet of Things. Here we see that in the 4G era and throughout the 5G era, there is technology that is really made for the Internet of Things, not a technology that actually is made for consumers that can also be used. So here we really have fit for purpose, and therefore we can enable many more use cases, and we can see a mass-wise deployment of the Internet of Things throughout the 4G and the 5G era. Of course, the 5G is coming with more things. Enhanced mobile broadband and critical communication are other topics we can have another webinar about. We can talk about that in another context, but it's important to understand that this is actually what you see a lot in the consumer market, the enhanced mobile broadband. That's what all the fuss is about, all the buzz that we hear. But we who are dedicated to the Internet of Things, you and us, Connexion, we are very much interested in what you can do with the Internet of Things with that. So enhanced mobile broadband is just an enabler. Yeah, and then you can see there are two technologies, and that's confusing the market. And here I have to apologize from the whole telco industry. Why do we always make it so difficult for you as a company that want to connect? And we have two technologies, confusing. So we are here to explain to you why we believe that you should use an LTE-M technology for global deployments and Narrowband IoT perhaps for local deployments. It depends all on the use case and the timing. That's the only thing that matters. What do you want to do with it? What's the timing? You could actually technically use technologies in different ways. You could actually use any technology to do everything, but what is best fit for use case and timing? So let's focus on use case first and then on timing. The global use case is that you have one single component in your production of your goods. So you produce, for example, let's say a washing machine, and that washing machine has a component for a connectivity module. In this case, it is powered by an eSIM card, and there's one component. Then you ship your washing machine, and somewhere it's being switched on somewhere in the world. So the slide is a little bit dated. I see we have around 500 mobile networks in 200 countries with different technologies where we all can actually, when your washing machine pops up, let's say in Australia, United States, Sweden, Finland, the Netherlands, wherever in the world in these 200 countries, then it immediately can get connection instantly. So an instant connection, building on all this kind of technologies. That is the use case that we are doing together with you from a Telenor Connexion perspective. What you then get is you get one relationship. So meaning that you also get one invoice. So all the washing machines, wherever they are located in the world, you get all data on one invoice. So it's easier to get a control of your cost because you can see how much it actually costs instead of going to all these different kind of local networks to get a little bit of data here. We also have one support desk, so if you have any problem in the connectivity wherever your devices are, you can call us 24/7, and also it's easier to integrate your backend systems with our APIs and portals. So this use case is important. So it's important to look at the use case, and for this use case, we believe we should choose one of those technologies. Now the timing. The timing is also very important because you can be too early and you can be too late, right? So it's very tricky for you as an entrepreneur to find what is the best time. If you want to do something now or you would like to do something in 5 years, what should you choose? Now when it comes to technology like the telecom connectivity, there are a few phases in the life cycle. So first they get standardized, then they get nationwide available, global available, and local available. And we see that the LTE-M and Narrowband IoT is currently nationwide available and starting to be rolled out globally available, with roaming agreements actually getting to be established. So we're having now the first 6 countries in the LTE-M, for example, and we see a rapid expansion of roaming there in the coming years. But still, it's not available in every country. Then you have the 5G, the enhanced mobile broadband. Yeah, it's getting to be nationwide available. Also here locally in Sweden, we now have 5G. and you see in many countries, but there is not yet a global infrastructure. For us that are working in a global connectivity setting, it's very important that we have to work together with our roaming partners, with our colleagues in the field that are locally having their radio networks and have the right business model. So it's a win-win for everybody in the value chain, including you. Of course, we saw also the 2G and 3G in certain markets is disappearing. When we look at where it's disappearing, we can see, of course, that in Asia, they're actually ahead of us in Europe. So in Asia, they're already a lot on 5G, as you can see. And 2G is not available in many countries there, and 3G will be available a little bit longer. United States is also having 2G sunset and 3G sunset. And in Europe, we see that there is 3G is going to be replaced by 5G, but in Europe 2G will be available a little bit longer, and we think at least around 2025 or something like this. However, this is not a technology to put all your cards on. The 2G technology is something to actually perhaps use as a backup technology, while when you want to have a use case out fast, but it's not the primary technology. Primary should be a 4G based technology today, and that LTE-M and Narrowband IoT both have that. So they have both their pros and cons, and there's a lot of material on the internet you can read also in our report about all the technical differences there. But you could say LTE-M is just a mobile technology like 2G, 3G, and 4G, and actually 5G, where it's also it has mobility, it has a good response time, not this ultra fast response time, but there is a decent response time that you are used to every day if you actually use a phone today. That kind of response time is there. There is roaming and everything. And Narrowband IoT is a different animal. Narrowband IoT is made to make the most efficient indoor coverage and to be most efficient with the data, and has actually been evolved to something completely different. If you actually look at more from a business perspective, what you can do with certain technologies, then we believe very much that if you would like to grow into new business models, then you should use the technology that has room to grow. So the narrowband IoT use cases we see when we talk to our customers are often things to reduce cost. It's a very good way to actually introduce to connect your devices. But you need to ask yourself, why do I want to connect my devices? Is it only to reduce cost, or is it also to increase revenue? If you want to increase revenue, and you will think about brand loyalty, recurrent revenue, subscription models, rental models, differentiating new innovative services, as a hardware company, we are moving away from being just, we build, let's say, a box and then we ship the box, that's it. Now we are looking to find recurrent revenue and subscription models, just as it already happened in the software industry. And if you want to do that, then you need to have a fast and reliable connection, and that's perceived. Of course, it means what the user thinks is fast and reliable. And in this kind of aspect, LTE-M is a better choice. And for ultra fast response, perhaps even you should go beyond LTE-M as well, because there are also limits. But LTE-M gives you the room to grow into those new innovative services, where narrowband IoT is a good start, but it limits you immediately. As you understand, we all work in very small development, and we see that hardware industry, like many of you, are moving from a hardware-only company to a software company that also has hardware. You know, many of us have been going through that transformation, and that transformation means that in the software, we often, very often make small updates to software to be quick time market and to be able to tune the user experience in order to be able to keep your customers in your subscription model. So that's a different mindset, and there is a lot of software updates. So we have seen experience that with our customers in narrowband, that they have thought about, my little device will send a little bit data, but my device will actually not never update. We don't do that. We just send a little bit data. Yeah, sending a data is not a problem. Updating is the problem. And here we see why. If we just look at the numbers here from Wikipedia, you can find it here yourself of how it's being designed. It's called LTE-M1, the LTE-M as well. And you see here the peak rates. These are, of course, theoretical values. So if I send a little bit data from my Narrowband IoT, it is taking a little bit time, so that's quite fast. But if I send a picture and I start to download and I start to make software upgrades, it can really become a problem. And these are theoretical values. If I have 1 megabyte, it takes 5 minutes, 5 full minutes, full speed to reach that megabyte to this narrowband device. And it's like 8 seconds in LTE-M. And of course, these are theoretical values. In reality, it will be a little bit, you know, depending on network conditions, it might double or triple the time, which can be normal. So it's not made for this. It's 40 times faster to get updates there. So the firmware updates for a fleet of devices is quite problematic in Narrowband IoT, and we see that there is a lot of struggling with that. There can be some heaps. We can actually, you could have say a lion that jumps through this. Let me try to keep to the point. Try to give you another example. Of course, it is possible with hoops and tweaks and ways to actually update the devices, but it's always a struggle. So if you are considering many updates because you would like to change your user experience and you would like to enlighten your users and keep them in your subscription model and keep them in your rental model, then this is quite tricky. And one thing that I'm not a security expert at all, but I have been talking to security experts, and they have told me that that a software update strategy is one essential thing if you think about security by design. So you might think about Narrowband IoT, you do that and you work with that, and then later on, just before you want to go to market, your security offer covers and looks at compliance. Oh, software update strategy is there. So you don't want to be stopped by those kind of things later on. So choose for the technology that has room to grow and is made to support updates. LTE-M is also designed for the internet age. We use the internet protocol. We all use it here, the TCP/IP internet protocol. IP means internet protocol. And the IP, of course, is what's happening, what's working on the internet. And we in the telco industry, and I have to apologize here, we have had a very long struggle to go from our super, efficient networks to the IP protocol, because the IP protocol is not made to be efficient. The IP protocol is made to be robust. It's not a joke, but the IP protocol has been designed to survive a nuclear war. Yeah, it's super robust, and that's why it's working everywhere. Nobody considers to do something else but us in the telco industry. The Narrowband IoT is designed for not using the internet protocol, but use their own proprietary kind of protocol, which is on the byte size, if you look at the bytes, just a little bit more efficient because the band is very narrow, so it's better. Yeah, you could of course do that. You could reinvent those kind of things, but what you're then doing is reinventing the internet, which is already there. Accept the fact that we are on the internet today in 2020, and focus on your customers instead. I think it will give you more value. So choose the IP protocol. It's easier to integrate with the cloud, our managed IoT cloud solution that is well integrated with our other offerings that we have from Telenor Connexion. It's made for the IP protocol and together with encryption, etc. And of course, there are different IoT clouds. They're all based on MQTT and TCP/IP, and it's already invented. Why invent it again? Just to save a little bit efficiency on a few bytes. Also, very practically, I told you before, we are in the early days. There is not LTE-M in every country yet. So in a lot of countries today, if you want to deploy something, you have LTE-M with a 2G fallback. And then it's very good that you use IP protocol, because when your application stack doesn't really care about if it's LTE-M or 2G, it can actually feel perhaps a speed difference, but still it works as it is. And since it's IP protocol, and if you use TCP as well, then you know it is quite stable. You know, it's not even quite stable. The whole internet, as you understand, it's built on this. So please use it. Now, it is possible to actually use narrowband IoT without IP protocol. It's designed like this. This is an example in, I believe this is in Shanghai. We have here street lights, and every street light has a little connection, a narrowband IoT connection, sending just a little bit data. The light is on, the light is off. The light, very simple thing. So these street lights, they don't use an IP protocol. They have their own, let's say, proprietary protocol because it's more efficient. But your apps, if you would like to control or work with those street lights, then your apps are, of course, in a cloud. And what you need is to have a kind of communication between them. So you can have a SCAF node in between. The SCAF node, SCAF is a standardized way to translate IP to non-IP, but this SCAF is a paper tiger, ladies and gentlemen. The SCAF is not deployed anywhere yet. So this is the theory only. And especially when you think about roaming, you work in 2 different countries, then you have to have 2 different SCAFs. And we believe very much what our customers want is one integration. Because if you sell your streetlights to be deployed in 10 countries, you need to have 10 integrations with 10 different places. That's very complicated. It doesn't really scale. But it's very well suited for local deployments inside, let's say, one operator network with a SCAF node. Another thing that we believe is very important is the ESIM. The ESIM, or the technical word is the EUICC, which is a software we can change without changing the SIM card itself. We can change the software on the SIM card so that you can actually change subscribers, change operator. Yes, you hear it right. We facilitate that you can move away from us to our competitor, and of course, we prefer the other way around. That means we need to really make sure we provide you the best service and you don't have a vendor lock-in. We call this the security model. So you might have a contract with us for a number of years, and after those years you would like to change to go to our competitor. But you cannot change the SIM cards in all those cars that are driving around or all those street lights because you don't have access to them. So we can remotely fix that. Also, it can be used for SIM localization for certain markets. For example, we have now a solution to have a global coverage also in Brazil with using this technology. And there LTE-M is the better fit for the very simple reason that if you want to do such a swap, you can of course not go in here. I can go in here my phone and change the SIM card, but you cannot, move to all your thousands of devices that are everywhere in the world because you don't have just one, you have many of them. So we have a solution, remote SIM management, that is based on the 3GPP, GSMA, etc., based on those standards to do this centrally together with you to help you to actually do this. And this standardized process starts with SMS. And you think, SMS? Oh, what's the last time I sent SMS? That was in the 1990s. Yes, that's correct. The consumer market doesn't use SMS, but we in the telco industry and IoT, we use SMS a lot because SMS is a very good way to make sure that the message arrives. Whenever we use this standardized process anyway, because this is standardized amongst operators, so it enables you to change. So all operators do a similar thing. And SMS is available in the LTE-M deployments, says the GSMA. And the narrowband IoT is often not supported with SMS. And also the size of the profiles will be troublesome. They're not 1 megabyte, but you understand, the size of the devices you're having out there doing updates, but all those ones at the same time will take a lot of narrowband. Also LTE-M, roaming agreements are earlier. LTE-M is seen as another variant of LTE. You have LTE-1 as well and LTE-A, and there's an LTE-M M1, but LTE-M is just another variant. For operators, it just often comes as a part of network modernization. Let's be honest about it. What is driving the mobile communication? Unfortunately, it is not IoT that is driving still. Although we have the technology that is really fit for IoT, it's still the consumer market where the numbers are. So the consumer market is now moving to 5G. And then often LTE-M is getting there to be part of a network modernization. Operators say things like, we go to a 3GPP version release. something. And then in this 3GPP release, there comes LTE-M as well. Well, Narrowband IoT is a complete new access technology where operators say, we would like to keep this to ourselves. It's a completely different investment for local markets. It was just a very short introduction that we could give here to you in, let's say, half an hour, 25 minutes. You know, believe me, I can talk for hours about this topic. This is one of my favorite topics, but I'm not here to bore you such a long time. You could, of course, read much more details and also technical, more reasoning behind what we are saying in our one pages you can download. It's the 2G, 3G replacement that will drive LTE-M and Narrowband IoT forward. Both technologies will be there. We believe that LTE-M will be very fast because if you look at how to use LTE-M, it works very similar like 2G and 3G. If you want to use Narrowband IoT in a good way, you have to redesign your architecture perhaps. You need to think, how can I make a firmware update? How can I make best use of this battery time? So it requires you to rethink, and it might take you more time, and then you are niched into Narrowband IoT. So the LTE-M brings you from machine to the Internet of Things during the 5G era. For global deployments, we really believe that LTE-M is the thing you should focus on. It enables you to replace not only the 2G, 3G easier because it's just another mobile technology like the other ones. It grows also, it has the growth potential to go to new use cases. Remember, your devices are not yet just like I bought this phone 1 year ago, and perhaps in 2 years I buy a new phone. That's how consumers work. But your IoT devices will stay in the field for 10 to 5, perhaps 5 to 10 years at least. So under those 5 to 10 years, you would like to think about new use cases. Gives you the commercial flexibility with the UICC. It's made for roaming. Narrowband IoT is very good for local deployments. So where you have static devices in smart buildings, for example, these devices never move and they stay always in one operator. You have no need to move to a different operator, and you have a very well-defined use case. So it fits the nationwide deployments. But for us that are working here with the global deployments that your device should be in many countries, we believe that LTE-M is the best choice. At Telenor Connexion, we do the global connectivity where we believe LTE-M is the best choice because it enables new use cases, more flexibility, and easier to do software updates. My name is Jelte Jansons. I'm a product manager at Telenor Connexion, and we thank you very much all for participating. It's really a pleasure to see such a great interest for this urgent topic for global enterprises.